Okay, this is Alice Sockett. Alice, thank you for joining me today. Can you just share where you're hailing from and just a little about you?
Yeah, absolutely. Hi, Sonia. My name's Alice. I am currently working as an audiobook narrator, and I was born in London. I am English, but I now live in Southwest Wales in the United Kingdom.
Great. And what, create this journey for you from England to Wales?
Well, so I was born in London, and my parents sold their house in London and bought a completely rundown, derelict, like mansion. But it was a mess. It was rooms full of bricks and bats, and it was crazy.
Wow.
But yeah, they moved to the middle of nowhere in rural Herefordshire in the countryside, which is on the border between England and Wales. So I kind of grew up there, and then gradually I kind of moved further and further west into Wales for various kind of jobs that I had. And I've ended up in southwest Wales, just the other side of Swansea on the coast. So, yeah, I've got a lovely little cottage and I can see the sea from my bedroom window and I walk the dog on the beach every day.
Sounds like a very beautiful life experience you've had. So basically, did you attend, say, primary school in England, or most of your schooling was in Wales?
No, because I was just over the border in on the English side, so all of my schooling was in England. Yeah.
Okay.
But my kids have both grown up in Wales.
And so in terms of job, same thing. Most of your work is in Wales, or is on both sides where it's, a little of both.
A little of both, a little of both. I once worked for a consulting firm based in the US, so I
Mhm.
worked completely remotely. But yeah, I've worked both sides of the border, and I now work for myself, so I'm self-employed, based in Wales. But I have clients who are authors and publishers from all over the world. So from across America, South Africa, UK,
Wow.
all over the place. Yeah,
All
it's
right.
great.
Before we get into the
Sure.
type of work that you do, I'm sure people would be interested in terms of your schooling. Can you share a bit about your journey through the different schooling and educational experiences that you've had?
Yeah, yeah. So I went to my local village primary school.
Hmm.
And then I was really lucky that one of my teachers saw something in me and thought that I should apply there was like an independent school, like a private school in
Hmm.
the city, in the county town where I lived.
Hmm.
And she gave up her time to coach me to pass the entrance exam.
Wow.
So I would go after school, and I remember she would. This was back in the day when nobody had a microwave. Microwaves were like super new technology, and the school had one microwave. And once a week after school, she would microwave me a potato, and I'd have a potato for my tea, and I'd eat this like microwave potato with cheese. And
Wow.
she would coach me through like answering the exam questions, and then I got a scholarship to that school, which was lovely. And then I ended up going to sixth form, did A levels, and then I went to university
And
in
what did you
England.
study at university?
I studied philosophy and English at university.
And
Yeah.
was in terms of the university, can you describe the population in that university? And
So
this is
it
in
was Red.
Wales, right? Or
No, no, university was in England, so it was in Reading University.
what was the population like in terms of the student body that you were part of?
It was great. It was mixed. There were lots of international students.
Mhm.
And there were students from all over the UK. So I was in like a halls of residence, and we had, I think there were like 24 of us, where there were like corridors, and there'd be like a boys' corridor and a girls' corridor, and there'd be a little kitchen area in between. And yeah, and we had students from yeah, thinking about it from all over the world in that corridor. It was fantastic. And we all, celebrated with each other. And yeah, we had it was a catered halls. So all the food was provided. So we'd all like go down in the morning for our breakfast together. And yeah, it was lovely. It was really nice. It was real mix of students. There was a student from the US who was with us. There were students from across Africa, across Asia. Yeah,
Wow.
all over actually. Yeah, it was a really good international kind of cohort. And from Wales, Scotland, England, and then some from like just around the corner.
And this was a public university or a private university?
So it was a so in the UK, they're pretty much all a mix of both. So it's a red brick university. So I think it was established in like the early 20th century. So
Mhm.
and there were some quite nice like historic buildings, but so it wasn't like one of the top universities, but it was like it was considered a good red brick university, which was what we were encouraged to apply for, a red brick university. And yeah, it was lovely.
So throughout that experience and after you finished, you were able to obtain employment in your area of study, or did you venture into a different area? Because it was what,
So
philosophy, your study was
philosophy and English.
right.
So it was there were lots of what was the word that was used? Transferable skills. That
Uh-huh.
was like the buzzword was like,
Right.
do this course, you'll have lots of transferable skills that you can take to anything. But while I was at university, I worked with the alumni team. So they were doing an annual telethon to call up alumni and reconnect with them.
Oh, wow.
And I got involved in that as and it was like students calling alumni, which was really lovely. So we could sort of go, oh my God, we're in the same halls, we've got
Yes.
this in common. Let's have a chat. Let me tell you what's going on there now. So I did that and I loved that. And the alumni and development team there were just absolutely delightful. And I remember the director of development, a guy called Sean, just who was brilliant. And I was like, I want to do his job one day. And so yeah, so I guess the career I initially went into didn't really have anything to do with my degree, but I wouldn't have had access to it had I not been at university.
Great. And how long did you stay in that for?
Uh, until last year.
Oh, wow. So this, how many years would you say that was?
So I turned 40 last year, so like 21 years, something like
Wow.
that. 20 years, so
Amazing.
ish. Yeah, yeah. And I sort of worked for different universities and consulting firms, but mainly worked in education.
And but this is not one university. You've moved from different
No,
universities.
lots of different universities, yeah. Yeah.
Oh,
And consulting in kind of philanthropy mainly for various different universities across the world, but also independent private schools, um, on how they can raise funds to cover things like scholarships like I had and yeah, and build amazing uh
lecturals and
halls and yeah, all that kind of stuff. Yeah, yeah. And
work.
also to do research because over here, particularly, the thing that I was raising the most money for was like medical research, like, God, all sorts of things,
Wow.
research, like scientific research.
Mhm.
Yeah, and that was really interesting.
What was your job title? What would you call that type of, I mean, it's communication,
Yeah, so well,
philanthropy. What
yeah,
put together, what is it called?
over here, it's called development. In the US, it's called advancement, typically.
What is
So
advancement? Okay. Mhm.
advancement. So yeah, like philanthropy, engagement
Yes.
with your kind of the community that would support the organization.
Do you find that well, I know that the alumni associations then tend to be one of the foundation, financial foundation for many of these universities. Did you find that that was really one of your main resource to help the universities?
It. I find it is more in the United States and in countries outside of the UK. I think because the UK traditionally has been much more centrally funded education, I
Mhm.
don't think as a country we're as used to thinking about education as being something that needs philanthropy. So
Ah,
it's yeah, it's like but it's something that I think UK universities are waking up to now. They're putting a lot more into it. But yeah, there's not the same culture of giving to education over here that you maybe would have in the US.
okay. And so then, if not the alumni within, the UK, then which who was the alternative source for, say, revenue for a university, if you have to ask them?
I mean, it's a big portion of it is now in the UK student fees. So yeah,
Wow.
students paying
So
tuition
wait a
fees.
minute. I thought the money would be coming from the government, but now you're saying the students
Yeah,
are
no,
really
a lot of
funding
it. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And actually, because UK universities, they've capped the amount that they can charge UK students. There are kind of like legal limitations to how much, how, there's a threshold of fees that they're allowed to charge UK students, but they can charge a lot more of international students. So actually, international students coming over and paying for an
international.
education
Yes.
here, that is uh, that's almost helping cover the gap in the cost that
Between the
it
local
would
and
be.
international. Yes,
Exactly. It's yeah. So actually, the
wow,
more international students we can get to
the
UK
better.
universities, the better. And for so many reasons.
That
Um,
is
yeah.
interesting to know. But here's another question that may need clarification. Is it then that most of the universities in the UK are tuition free, the public ones or the mixed?
No, no, they all
They have to pay
they
tuition?
you have to pay tuition, but you so we have kind of a government supported student finance system,
Right.
and that is means tested. So you everybody will have access to enough student loan to
Okay.
cover their education, and how much you have to pay back, how much of that is grant and how much is
Based on the
loan,
needs.
is
Okay.
based on your parental or your family income.
Which
So
is
yeah, it's
similar to, I guess, the US and other countries, then, if
yeah,
that's the frame. Okay,
yeah.
very good. All right.
There we go.
So you did your 20 years in development, and I'm considering that you were successful at it, the fact that you stayed in it that long,
Yeah, yeah,
right?
yeah.
Um, what is it then now that led you to, I don't know if it's a switch or just another ladder in on that career.
Oh,
What
it's a massive, massive switch.
okay, no,
A complete about turn, Sonia. It's a number of things. So I mentioned that I had this idea when I first went into that alumni office and I saw the development director and I was like, I want to do that.
Mhm.
That's what I want to do with my life. And that looks like a nice, comfortable job. I thought he was a really impressive guy. I loved what they were doing and the fact that they were sort of generating funds to help, you know, education. I thought I completely bought into that. And
Mhm.
I set myself this task that, okay, I want to do that by the time I'm 40. And so last year I turned 40 and I was I guess about 18 months ago, so sort of 6 months before I turned 40,
Mhm.
things in my personal life were getting very, very stressful. So my father died, my eldest son was quite unwell, my husband's father died, and the university system in the UK is because of the way that it's funded. It's kind of on its knees. And I felt a lot of that pressure on me because my job was income generating,
Ah,
but also because I led a big team. And so I felt like I was responsible for their jobs. And,
there's
we needed, I needed to make sure that they all had jobs.
right.
Um, And the university that I was working at, as many, many universities in the UK have had to, over the last few years, had to make some quite serious savings. And because I was in a very senior role, I had to make lots of the decisions around how we would make those savings. And
Mhm.
I think on the back of grief and worry, and even like after the pandemic, I just felt like there was thing after thing after thing that was just kind of like waves hitting
Yeah.
me. And
Mhm.
every time I kind of got back up, something else would come. And I just got more and more exhausted. And I found that I was having to sort of like paint my face on, like put on a happy face to go into work
Right.
and listen to happy music on I had a Spotify playlist in my car to try and kind of pep me up. And then I'd go in and try and get my team through this really challenging period where they were all worried that they might lose their jobs, and keep
Right.
everybody going and generating income and doing their jobs and engaging with people externally and selling, the organization that, they were having issues with personally.
Mhm.
Um, and it was just so tiring, Sonia, kind of having to shoulder that burden for everybody. I've got a husband
Right.
and two children, and I had all this team relying on me, and I felt like the whole university sector was relying on me, and I was like, oh God. And I sort of was looking at my life, and I had this list of things that I wanted to do by the time I was 40, and it was like get married, have children, have a house by the sea, have a dog, be a development director, do all these things. And it was like I had ticked all these things off, but I wasn't very happy. In fact, I was really, really stressed.
Yeah.
Um, and I
Wow.
just had to kind of have a bit of a look at my life and go, you know what, this is what I thought I wanted, but
Yeah.
it's really taking its toll. And I also had to process my grief and reconnect with who I am as a person, because I realized that I didn't actually like the person that I had
What?
become. I
Yeah.
was like, I don't know who this woman is, and I don't think I like her very much. Like if I met me, I don't think I'd be friends with her.
Oh,
And
wow.
that is a horrible thing to realize about yourself.
Hmm.
Um, and I ended up having a breakdown, so I had to take some time off work. My mental health was in bits. I just couldn't kind of I couldn't keep the mask on anymore of pretending to be happy and pretending to be okay.
Yeah.
And then once it slipped, I just wasn't okay at all. And I just went to bed for like 6 months, and I just couldn't do anything. I just couldn't function. And I got counseling, which was incredibly helpful. I saw a wonderful, wonderful counselor who was really helpful.
Hmm.
And I decided I just couldn't be that person anymore. I couldn't do that job and shoulder all that stuff anymore. And I had to completely reevaluate what success metrics to apply to my life, because it had
Right.
always been like, okay, if I just get to the next level in this job, then
Hmm.
everything will be, then I'll feel like I have done it. I'll feel like I've got there. It was like I was always climbing up that ladder. It was
Yeah.
always, yeah, trying to get to the next stage. And like the higher I got, the more unhappy I was. Like the more money
More
I
the
had coming
demand.
in, yeah,
Yeah.
I didn't feel fulfilled at all. Um, and so I completely opted out for about 6 months. And then my counselor was sort of saying to me, you need to do basic self-care. You need to be going for walks in the fresh air every day. You need to be getting sleep. You need to be drinking enough water and eating a healthy diet.
Hmm. Hmm.
Those are the things that are going, and do that regularly, and you will start to feel better.
Hmm.
And it's what everybody tells us, but it is true. And I'd take my son to school in the morning, and then I'd take my little Jack Russell dog on the beach for a walk every day. And it's an 8 mile long beach, and I would just walk
Wow.
and walk. I didn't walk the whole thing, but I'd go for like long walks on the
Yes.
beach every day, wear my headphones, and I started listening to audiobooks. And there was something about, so it was like I was kind of waking up again, because I was outside and it was spring, because I'd kind of been asleep all winter basically. And when I did surface from my bed, I started going out, and it was like all nature started kind of blooming, and the trees were coming in, like everything was coming into flower and bloom, and like things were kind of waking up again, and I was waking up again. And I was listening to these beautiful books. and some of them were really beautiful. Some of them were really badly read. And I was looking along, and like the beautiful ones were great. And then some of them I was like, oh, for goodness sake, I could do a better job than this. Like what what is this? And I was getting
Be-
really cross. I
Before
was
you
like,
get into that,
yeah,
Alice,
yeah.
there's a because that transition is very interesting, but I wanted some clarification
Yes.
on that experience in the last uh, that feeling that, as you said, in terms of how you were defining your success and that ladder that
Mm.
you needed to climb. How long was that period for you? Is it before you decide to move on? Was it a year, 2 years? How long did it take for you to knowing that you were kind of sinking under this weight? How long was that?
Oh, uh,
You start seeing the shift.
I'd say I had a really tough year before I stopped work. So my dad died in the spring of 2024,
Mm-hmm.
and then it was the spring of and then it was the winter of 2024. Yeah, so it was like maybe 9 months. It was after my father passed away,
Mm-hmm.
and I think I went back to work too quickly after he died, and he died very suddenly. He had a stroke. He'd it's a long story, but he'd been going downhill and I'd been worried about him for a long time. And then suddenly it was like, whoa, there we go. Okay. And
Wow.
then I had to deal with his flat and
Mm-hmm.
everything. Um, yeah, and I think I'd been off work and then I came back. And when I came back to work, it was like, and now you need to lead a redundancy. I
Yeah.
was like, I
Yeah.
don't have the reserves for this. So yeah, maybe I'd say, yeah, I'd say I had 6 months where I was going into work and I was on my knees. I would come home and just go to bed. I'd kind of put the face on for work and then I'd come home and just curl up in a ball and
So,
not be able to do anything.
so let me ask you this because you said, the person that you've become. Uh,
Mm.
so can you kind of um, categorize then or kind of show the differences in what you were observing based on who you were when you started this journey and then who you had become um, during that period where you like, okay, I don't like this person now relative to what, the excitement and the curiosity that you had when you started, when you have that goal, those dreams to,
When I started it with the original
yeah,
dreams.
the original dream. to
Yeah.
to when you start not liking it anymore.
Uh,
What was the big, can you see the big shift and what is it specifically? You mentioned the fact there were so many people relying on you and so on.
yeah.
What point could you see those big shifts?
I think I think during the pandemic was really
Oh, the
hard for
pandemic.
me.
Okay.
I
Mm-hmm.
think that was probably a difficult one, because during the pandemic, or about 6 months before the pandemic, I found out that the consulting work I was doing, I was an employee for this company, and they said to me, "You're not going to be an employee anymore because we're changing the way that we
Do
run
think.
the business. We're going to do it so that you're like an independent consultant. So you'll be working, self-employed per day. Um, but there's loads of work lined up."
Mm-hmm.
And I worked it out and I was like, oh my God, there is loads of work lined up. I'm going to make much more money doing this per day. And I was bringing in a lot of work. I was doing a lot of business development myself. So I knew that there was this pipeline of work and
Yeah.
that I'd probably be more financially well off using the new model. So my contract changed. I think it was on the 1st of March 2020.
Oh, wow.
So, and I was like, but it's fine because it's the 1st of March 2020 and we didn't know really about COVID then. And it was like boom, 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 COVID, and then all of these contracts that we had lined up they weren't interested in
Oh,
doing
wow.
any sort of consultancy. Everything just shut down. And
Mhm.
I didn't, I didn't have a job at that stage. So that was hard. And I just had to, yeah, I I
How
I had to find my own work and I had to make it work.
how big was your team when you said you have a team depending on you? Was it at this point or when you were doing
No,
consultation for
no. So
work?
the no, it was the big team was at the university that I worked at.
Mhm.
Uh so it was about 22 or so, but I was involved in a restructure that covered more people than that.
That's a big team.
So
Wow.
yeah,
Very.
yeah, yeah.
All right. So
And
now,
they were an amazing team. That I think that was the thing that was really hard. It wasn't like, oh, there are some people in here who aren't pulling their weight, and this will be a good opportunity to kind of, you
yeah.
know, get rid of people that aren't pulling their weight. They were all fantastic. And it was a team I had built because I had recruited a lot of them and
Ah,
developed a lot of them, and like I'd put a lot into it. So yeah, it was very upsetting, kind of. And also they were my friends. you
oh,
know,
wow. It's harder.
I really like, they were people that I really loved and spent all my days with. And the nature of the job was that we traveled a lot together and,
Mm.
we saw a lot of each other, and it was a really lovely
Group. Yeah.
atmosphere and ethos and group. It was a really special place. And it felt like a lot of responsibility to retain that being special. And I
When,
didn't want them to feel that risk, so I just took it all, you know.
and I'm sure your counselor probably tell you that's not the best approach
She did, yeah.
to do. All right. So that's 6 months off for you, when you started taking these walks on the beach, start listening to books, and you're like, wait a minute, this doesn't sound so right. This is when you actually resign, or you were thinking about resigning from.
Yeah, so I was off sick with from work. I was signed off by my GP with stress and anxiety. So I was off work sick, but I was still being paid. I was still employed.
Okay.
And I was trying to work out whether
What
I
to
was going to be able to go back to that job.
Mhm. Okay, now take me back on that beach. You walk
So
in,
I'm
you
on the
listen to
beach.
the
I'm
books,
on the
and
beach. I'm
yes,
listening to the books,
right.
and I'm loving the good ones. And there's something about audiobooks. I was talking to somebody about this last week, that it's almost like they take you back to when the last time somebody read to you. I think being read to is a really personal thing. And my dad used to read to me. He used to read, we didn't have a TV. My parents decided to get rid of the TV because they thought it wasn't very educational. So I was very left out at school because I didn't know what the other kids were talking about. But I read loads of books, and my dad read to me, and we'd just curl up and he'd read books, and it was lovely. And there was something about kind of grieving for him and listening to these books being read to me, and almost going back to that kind of childlike state of like somebody reading to you is very, I don't know, it's very nurturing. And yeah, and I was doing that, and so the good books were just so beautiful and really meaningful to me. And
Mhm.
then there were some bad books. There was some just there was some really bad narration. There was some AI narration which I hated, but there was also some people who just obviously didn't understand what they were saying, and they didn't like the book. They were just going through the motions and reading it out. And I can remember just thinking, oh, how is it that those people get to live a dream life being audiobook narrators, and they're not even any good, and I'm breaking my neck doing this job, and I'm really stressed, I'm really unhappy, but they get to do that amazing job and be audiobook narrators, and they're not very good, and I could do a better job. And kind of it took me weeks of kind of mulling this over and being like, oh, it's another terrible one. I'm gonna have to, I'm just gonna have to get a different book. And yeah, and then I just thought, you know what? I'm gonna have a go at this. And I enrolled just it was like a short course and it was all online, but it was kind of in person online, if that makes sense. It was live,
Yes.
um, with RADA, so that's the Royal Academy of Dramatic Arts in London. And it was specifically, the course was called Voicing Audiobooks.
Hmm.
And I was like, I'm going to learn how to do this well. If I'm going to do it, I'm going to learn how to do it well. And I enrolled on the course. And I thought I'll do the course and then I'll do a show. I'll invest in getting a show reel recorded, and then I'll find an agent, and I'll probably have to do lots of free books before anybody is even interested in paying me for anything. I thought it would be a really slow process, and I didn't think it would make me any money. I was like, this is something I'm going to do for me because it's gonna like, I don't know, it's gonna like scratch an itch for me that I feel like I want to
Re-energize,
do.
possibly.
Yeah, I know I'll enjoy it. And I feel like it will be a real accomplishment to record an audiobook and have that live somewhere for people to listen to. So I was like, yes, I'm going to do this. And I registered on this course. And then my mum, who I think had been obviously really worried about me because I hadn't got out of bed for 6 months, she found out that I'd enrolled in this course and was like, oh my God, thank God, she's doing something. She's got out of bed. So she was then sort of saying to her friends, oh, Alice is doing much better. She's enrolled in this course.
Good.
And one of her friends had a daughter who had done a bit of audiobook work. And she reached out to me and said, I've done a bit of this. Would you like to have a chat? And I said, oh, yes, please. And she basically just sat me down and she told me what I tell people on my Instagram channel, which is that you don't need a show reel, you don't need an agent, you can literally just audition directly for audiobook work with indie authors on something called acx.com, which is a platform that sits behind Audible. Um, and she was like, and you just do it. You
Wow.
just have a go. And you can also go on there and listen to the other narrators and see if they're any good. So I was like, okay, well, I'll register and I'll have a look. And it was that thing again that I had a listen to what other audiobook narrator samples sounded like. And I was like, I think I could already do better than that. And I saw a book that was available, and I just thought, well, you like in for a penny, I'm just going to audition. I'm
Brilliant.
just gonna do it. And I did, and I got offered the first job that I went for,
Just like that.
just like that.
Wow.
Yeah, I
Amazing.
know. Shocker.
And this was during the course, not after you completed the
I
course.
hadn't even started the course.
Oh, wow.
I'd registered for the course and I knew I wanted to do it. And then I had a chat with this woman and she said, oh, yeah, just have a look at this website, acx.com. And I had a look and I just thought, oh, well, there's a job there that I quite fancy auditioning for. I'll just like as an experiment, as a trial without any pressure, I'll just have a go. And this guy got in touch with me and he said, because I hadn't filled out my profile or I hadn't got any samples on
That
there.
is
And
interesting.
he said, I loved your audition. But what's the deal with the blank profile?
Right.
Do you actually exist? And yeah, and I explained the situation, but yeah, it was wild.
It sounds wild. So, did you then continue with the course?
I did, yeah, and I loved it. It was amazing. It was the reason that I then went on, I think, and have won an award.
Mhm.
In my first year being an audiobook narrator, because I just absorbed like a sponge everything I was told, and I was just in a position where I was so keen to learn and I was
Mhm.
so keen to be like the best I possibly could be at this. And it felt so achievable because I've been dealing with such like big kind of like strategic problems. And then suddenly all I had to do was just deliver a sentence effectively into a microphone,
And
just
this
sitting by
like
myself
that.
in my
Yeah.
own time, no pressure. And it was like, oh, this is lovely. And it
Wow.
is, it's the
Okay.
best job ever.
So, do you see now, you use the term transferable skills, that was the advice you said, maybe a mentor or someone had shared with you. Do you see the transferable skills
Yeah.
from it's perfect, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, my love of reading. I mean, I did, you know, the philosophy and the English, and I learned how to really
Right.
understand particularly like more archaic texts.
Uh-huh.
So, and my kind of specialism in the audiobook kind of like my genre is tends to be historical fiction. You know, I really love like 19th century novels. I love like Jane Austen, that sort of thing.
Mm.
And I think going to university and studying English at university just did help me with reading old books with a modern sort of take, I
Tone.
guess. Yeah, tone. And I try and be, and the RADA course just taught me that the more human and conversational you sound, you know, you don't have to be polished, you don't have to sound like an actor. What people want to listen to in an audiobook is just a
Natural.
human being
Natural.
telling them a really like intimate personal story and being real. And so that kind of just gave me permission to just like be real and just have
All
a
right.
go.
So the fact that you started listening to those books and you're able to just whatever feel the tempo, whatever it is that was off, that was on and that
Yes.
was off. What was off about those books? What is it? The connection in the voice, the syntax, the tone. What was it? What is it?
I think it was that you could tell when people weren't enjoying reading the book. You know, it was what the books that I love listening to, it doesn't you forget that people are reading to you and you think that they are just saying the words that are coming from their heads. You forget it's a book at all and you just think there is a
You're,
person speaking to you
it immerses you into the story. It
completely.
transform you. Yeah.
Completely. Whereas then there were others where it just felt like they were reading something and they didn't, yeah, it was like that the syntax didn't sound like people would speak or think. And it was just that, yeah, it was just like they were
Ah.
relaying the words rather than understanding the meaning.
So you have to force yourself to listen in a way.
Yeah. Yeah,
Right.
exactly.
Yeah, because you're
Quite
navigating all of
jarring.
that. Yes. Yes.
And things like mispronouncing words
Mhm.
or, you know, or like doing starting off giving a character one accent and then their voice changes because they've
Ah.
obviously lost track of what voice they gave which character.
So it gives
Um,
the acting, the real act, the acting, because maybe they were acting in a sense of trying to fit the narrative that they were supposed to. Whereas maybe for you, it's easy for you to just transfer in smoothly because it's natural. It feels natural.
it feels really natural for me. I think what made me cross when I was listening to the books and I didn't feel like they were good enough was I felt like it must be such a privilege to be an audiobook narrator and to have that as your job. Like these people were so lucky that that was their job, that they get to do this. And it's like, but they don't sound like they're even enjoying the book. Like,
Ah,
don't
okay.
they understand how lucky they are? And I think part of it was that. It's like every time I narrate a book, I feel like I am the luckiest person in the world to
Oh,
get to
wow.
do this every day. Honestly, it's amazing. I love my life now.
Okay, so here's a question because you mentioned about genre. How did you decide on the genre in terms and I'm probably mispronouncing as well.
No,
You're
you're fine.
funny. How did you decide on your choice? Is it because of what you started out with or based on the course that you took, maybe kind of guide you into, this would be better for you?
I think it wasn't as deliberate as that. I think it was more that I auditioned for everything.
Oh,
And
okay.
those were the ones that people obviously that rights holders, that the authors and publishers felt that I was the right voice for. And I think lots of kind of historical fiction is set in England and maybe people
Yeah.
would have this sort of accent. So maybe that makes sense that those are the ones that I would get. Whereas, yeah, there are some books that I've tried to audition for. I mean, so at a similar time, I was trying to find other voice acting work because I didn't know that I just wanted to do audiobooks. I
Right,
was like, well, if I'm doing audiobooks, I might as well do like TV adverts and sorry,
right, right.
I might as well do, computer games and stuff. So I did do a few auditions for those, did not get a single bite at those. I realized that like books is my niche and
Yeah.
yeah.
So the Jane, you said Jane Austen, you seem to kind of gear towards those types of books. I mean, who
Yeah.
I'm trying to figure out who are produced. Is it that ones books that have already been published and now they're being transferred to audio, or people are writing within that particular?
He, there is, and I didn't know this before I started listening to audiobooks. There is a massive market for Jane Austen fan fiction. So
Oh,
it's like alternate realities within those different books. So particularly Pride and Prejudice. So I'm recording one at the moment and it's like a variation of Pride and Prejudice. So some of the same things happen in Pride and Prejudice, and then something will be different. And it's like a choose your own adventure really with
right,
Elizabeth and
right.
Darcy. And I did one of those a couple of months ago as well. And that has sold more like probably 5 times more copies than all of my other books put together.
Oh, wow. That's amazing.
Right? I know.
Have
I
you
do, and I
ever
didn't know
get
this.
to meet the authors, or is it like an organization? Because one other thing that is happening, especially now with AI and just mass production in a sense, it's you're thinking it's one author when it's just an organization that's just pumping out these books and come up with these fake names. Um, can you share? I mean, I don't want you to give away any secret, but is
No,
that
no, I
are these real authors, or is just a group of
there
a media group or publishing group just publishing things?
there are lots of just
Individual authors?
well, I was going to say there are lots of people who are using AI to just pump out
Oh,
lowest common denominator, rubbish. And I think one of the things that I sort of coach audiobook narrators now already after less than a year, which feels
oh, wow.
ridiculous. But one of the things that I'm teaching them is kind of how to spot the difference between, a real author and who's
AI.
actually written something themselves and is invested in their book doing well, and somebody who is just trying to like chuck as much out there as possible. So I always read the book, the manuscript all the way through before I start recording, so that I know what's coming. So I know who the characters are and where they're going to go and what's going to happen. And once I've read the manuscript, I then have a Zoom call like this with the author and ask them questions about the characters. And I just get a sense, and it's really important for them to know that I'm a human being
Right.
and for me to know that they're a human being and to just get a sense of what that, because like it takes a huge amount to write a book.
Yeah.
It's like it's a proper labor of love, and I want to do their book justice. So
Mhm.
I only audition for books that I want to read. And I will only sort of carry on with the contract if I've met them and I trust them and I feel like they trust me and it's going to be a good match. Otherwise, I'll sort of let somebody else do it.
Okay, okay, okay. Wow. And so even earlier on when you said, walking on the beach, you were able to differentiate between a real voice and AI voice.
Oh yeah.
Can you tell? What's a tell?
The AI voices, they can sound lovely because they have cloned nice, lovely voices, but they really don't understand what's happening in the story.
The
So they
emotion?
can't do voices. They can't do voices. So that's one thing. So all of the dialogue kind of has the same voice, or if they do a voice,
It's monotonic and
yeah,
it's lacking emotion. It's very flat.
completely lacking emotion. There is no understanding of any emotion that's happening in the scene.
Hmm.
So the words are coming out and they're coming out in a sort of, but they don't really know what they're saying and they just sort of go up and down like this and they
Oh,
don't
wow.
it's there's and for short form, so if you're listening to a train announcement or a coming up next on the TV, you wouldn't be able to tell the difference. But when it's a whole book and
Mhm.
there are nuances and emotions and different characters feeling different things, you can just spot them a mile off.
That's an interest. Yeah, I didn't even think of thought of that when you said different characters. Are you doing different characters when you're reading? Or
It's
you
the
are?
best bit about it. Oh yeah. I do men, women, children. Yeah,
Are you?
different accents.
But I mean, is it completely sounding different, distinctive, different in such a way that if I'm listening to it, I wouldn't be able to tell if it's the same person?
No, I think you'd tell it was me, but you'd suspend disbelief. You'd be like, "Oh, Alice is speaking a little bit lower. That
Oh,
means
okay.
it's
Oh,
Mr.
I see.
Darcy." Or, the Elizabeth voice might sound younger than the Mrs. Bennet voice, who sounds a bit sort of,
Yeah.
older and
Chirpy.
more, yeah, sort of moany almost. So, she's more like that, Whereas, yeah. So and a big part of preparing the manuscript is working out what all those voices are going to be for all those characters.
Do you? I'm thinking about it, and it sounds exciting. Do you get excited when every time
I love
you?
it. It's amazing. Honestly, it is the best job in the. It's so much fun because I think there's acting jobs where you get to play a character, but audiobook narration, you are playing every single character in the entire production. You're recording it. You're also the narrator. You're doing the sound effects if there are any, though there aren't usually in audiobooks.
Mhm.
Then you're doing all the editing and mastering, and that you create the whole thing. It's
What do you mean
completely
you do the
yours.
editing? You do the edit?
I do the editing.
So
My
do you?
husband actually, my husband does the mastering for me because he's a sound engineer, but most audiobook narrators will do all their own, and that's just part of the fee.
Oh, is it expected then, or is that what you're saying?
Yeah, pretty much. I think it is now, but on ACX it definitely is. Yeah,
Oh, wow. So in other words, an entire production that you're doing.
the whole thing. So, an author will oh, I've been brought a cup of tea. Sorry. An author will be will put their book up. You'll
Mhm.
negotiate a price, and they will, the next thing they know is their book is on Audible. You do everything. I mean, they obviously they listen to it and approve it,
And
but
their feedback is, well, you will know how well you're doing based on their feedback, correct?
yeah, exactly. So what you do, so I meet them and then I will submit the first 15 minutes so they can just sort of hear the direction of travel. And if I've got something completely wrong, like I'm mispronouncing the lead character's name or I've gone for a really stupid accent that doesn't make sense, they tell me, and then I can change it. And then I do the whole of the rest of the book and I record chapter by chapter by chapter. And then I upload it and they could listen to it. And then, yeah, they approve, they pay me, and it
Wow.
goes through to Audible. It's great.
It sounds great. Okay, you just mentioned different accents.
Yes.
But this is in this, it's not outside of the US. I mean, the UK. So give us examples of the different accents that you do. Is it
Oh, wow.
regional, local dialects,
Yeah.
dialectical
Yeah.
accents?
Local British accents. I'll do American accents. I did kind of a World War II book set in Auschwitz, and I had to do German accents. That was really tough. I mean, that was a really tough
Wow.
book just because it was so emotional. But yeah, yeah, I'll do any accent. I'll have a go at anything.
So this keeps you on your toe because I'm thinking you have to do some research on these
Yeah,
different,
absolutely.
right?
Absolutely, absolutely. And what I sometimes do, particularly if it's just dialogue for a certain character and it's not too much,
Mhm.
um, I will just find out what the differences are in that accent. It might be that, S's are pronounced as Z's or, F's are pronounced as V's. And I just take that dialogue and I will just retype it out kind of phonetically. And
Uh-huh.
then when I say it, it will sound enough like that accent. And they're never perfect, but it just needs to be authentic enough for to take the reader there. It can be just like a hint of an accent, just so that they stay in the story.
In the story. What about a different language?
So I've had to do some French and some German in some of my books. I'm very, very lucky that the lady who has also worked as an audiobook narrator speaks fluent French. So I would just type her the thing in WhatsApp. I'd send her the words and she'd give me a voice note of this is exactly how you pronounce that sentence in
Oh,
French, and then I could just do that into the mic. So, but what I've got now, so the group that I coach, we've got a sort of a private group Discord server, and we've actually got a channel where, and there are people all over the world in that group, and we've got a channel where if there's a particular accent or language that people need to say and they don't know how to say it, they'll ask, can anybody read this out to me in German? And
uh-huh.
somebody in the group will give them a voice note and then they can mimic that.
Mimic.
So yeah,
So,
it's
okay,
good.
the way that you make it sound, Alice, it's exciting. That's one. And I'm thinking anybody that's going to listen to this is going to like, well, I think I can do that. But I am thinking about it a different way. I'm thinking this requires one, well, that excitement and interest, and it also requires some money to start the production process. Yes, it's not where you just
Well,
because if you have to do everything from scratch and think about all the different parts that are required to for a final complete production,
mhm.
it takes money. Yes, a
Yeah,
budget to start it.
yes, the way that I've got round this when I've suggested to people, if people come to me and they're like, I really want to do this, I do not have a spare pound to my name to put into
Right.
this, but I've got a cell phone, So I would say, okay, you can join. And unfortunately, ACX is only available. This is the website that I do most of my auditions through. It's only available in the UK, Ireland, USA, and Canada, which is really, really annoying. But what I would suggest for people who have access to that
Hmm.
is use your phone, record your audition into that. There's a 30-day free trial on Adobe Podcast, which will sort out the sound quality for you because you're not going to be in a nice space and you haven't used a proper mic. So you just put that through Adobe Podcast and then you can upload that. And the only person that's listening to your auditions is that author or that publisher. And it only needs to be good enough for them to like the sound of your voice and like how you've delivered it. So if
Hmm.
you can get that recording on your phone sounding good enough, that is all you need to start off with. And then once they've offered you the job,
Yeah.
that's when and you've negotiated a fee, that's when you can justify investing and potentially what you could do. I mean, this would be a bit tougher, is you could do the 15-minute checkpoint on your phone and then lots of narrators will ask for 50% of the fee after they've done the checkpoint and then 50% at the end. So you
Hmm.
could ask for that 50% after you've done the first 15 minutes on your phone, use that money to buy a microphone, pop shield, and the other things you need.
Hmm.
And then you don't have to, you're using that money to buy all your kit. Uh, and then you're sorted. So actually, I think you can do most of it on an absolute shoestring to start off with. And I recorded this, I got a grant for this booth, which was very helpful.
Okay.
But I recorded my first 10 audiobooks under my son's cabin bed with duvets hanging from each side.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, I really started on a shoestring too. I'm lucky that
Yeah.
my husband is a sound engineer, so
Hmm.
he was able to help me with that side. But
Right.
he and I are both trying to pay that forward by just sharing on social media, like how easy it is to do this. And I think
Right.
it's really important that we have more voices, more good people who will love doing this.
Because this is one of the innovative jobs that are for the next generation because everything is, being taken over through, you know, nobody's print production is going
Yeah,
down, if
yeah,
anything. So
exactly.
this is it.
But
All right. So
you've
which,
also,
go ahead. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, it's also audiobooks are growing massively.
Yes.
And I think part of that is that you've got the baby boomers who have some technical capability. They are able to get onto Audible. Okay. So maybe the generation above them, Audible's going to be kind of out of reach for. But the
Mhm.
baby boomers, they can access Audible or equivalent streaming platforms for audiobooks.
Right.
And they're getting to the age where their eyesight's failing. They might not have the access to like real books anymore. You
Right.
know, health reasons. Actually, audiobooks are fantastic for that group, and more people are getting into audiobooks. And then you've also got younger people who
Mhm.
don't seem to find the same joy in reading to
Yeah.
themselves because they've almost lost that concentration span
Mhm.
because they've been swiping and they've just grown up with iPads and things, but they can cope with listening to an audiobook in the car or what have you. So it's growing and growing and growing, the audiobook market. So
Yes.
yeah, it's exciting.
And so you will be having this job for a very, very, very long time.
I hope so. I hope so. What's been really lovely with, so you know, you found me through seeing a video that I did on social media, and lots of other people have reached out to me because I've been sharing exactly how I've done this and how easy and accessible it was. But the people that have been reaching out to me are people who, you know, have disabilities that mean they're housebound and
Mhm.
they cannot feasibly do a normal job, or they've got caring responsibilities, or they've got young children, or, you know, I met a lady last week who had a motorbike accident and she hasn't been able to kind of leave the house because of the, you know, because of the fallout from that accident. But she has gained her confidence again through finding audiobooks and, you know, it's a
Wow.
creative outlet. She's earning money. It's flexible, you know, time wise. And, you know, if you've got a condition where you sometimes have more energy than others, you can just make it fit that. So it's, you know, I just think it's great.
It is great. And we're winding down a bit. But I
Hmm.
have to ask you this. Um, is there any book while you're reading it or after you read it, after you've read it that made you cry?
Oh, most of them,
Oh.
honestly, most of them. Yeah, what's really strange is that there's something about reading aloud, and I'm in this little kind of sort of insulated box, and it's just me and the story, and
Mhm.
I'm kind of absorbing it and reading it out, and I almost kind of feel like I take on the emotions of the characters. It's like because I become them, and for sustained periods of time. So yeah, some of them have been quite emotionally kind of grueling, beautiful books. But yeah, I just did an amazing one that's about a Jewish family in the run up to the Second World War. Um, and you know, like Spanish flu hits and half of the characters die, and I was just like, it was just awful. It was really upsetting just reading
Yeah.
it. But then I've had other ones where, you know, I'm playing like a psychopath, and I sort of get into that get into that kind of mode, and then I'm doing the school run, and I'm all sort of unhinged on the school run, and people are looking at me really really suspiciously. So yeah, it's crazy. You just absorb the
Yeah.
characters that you're portraying.
Any horror books?
There's a really good one. It's not a horror, but it's like a thriller. And it's based on a true story actually. It's amazing. The author's fantastic. And it's about a woman who's adopted a little girl, and she adopted her as a baby, and this little girl is 5. And then the new teaching assistant at her daughter's school starts being a bit inappropriate, a female teaching assistant. And then basically it transpires that she is the biological mother. And she's sort of trying to manufacture a relationship with this little girl, and everybody's gaslighting the adoptive mum, and it just gets and it's all coming from the adoptive mother's point of view, And and I'm reading it, in her voice, and it just gets like more and more stressful. And this little
Wow.
girl starts calling the teaching assistant mummy, and it's like, oh, it's really good. Yeah, I really enjoyed that one.
Wow, that's interesting. Um, and you can answer this question based on, how comfortable you are. Any book that is explicitly, I don't know, pornographic or intimate?
Spicy.
I
Um, yes, and if I'd thought about it at the time, I would probably have used a pseudonym. And that's what I suggest some of my narrators that I'm working with do, because they're doing quite extreme. Some of them are doing like some of these books, these smutty books are like, they've opened my eyes to things I was not aware of, honestly, Sonia. But yeah, I did one, and I don't think I'd realised how spicy it was until I was already contracted to do it. And fortunately, no one's really listened to it, so it hasn't been a problem. But I actually do wish that it didn't have my name attached to it now. I'd like to have kept that separate just because it
because you
was
have to do
quite
the voices, I
graphic.
guess.
You have to do the voices, you have to read the whole scene, you have to talk about all the bits. Yeah,
That's
it's
interesting. Are you able to see how many, I don't know, downloads or purchases or views on your particular books that you audioed?
yes, but not only the ones where I have a share of the royalties. So there are kind of three
Oh,
ways that audiobook narrators get paid. You can either get paid kind of just for your time. You deliver the work, you do the recording, you give it to them and they pay you and then you're done. Or you do it where you get 50% of the royalties for the book, but you don't get any money up front.
oh,
Or my favorite is a mix of the two, where they'll pay you something up front and you get 50% of the royalties. And so most of my books are those. And if I'm getting some of the royalties, I have, yeah, like various screens where I can see
yeah.
where things have sold, how many people are listening, and also I can see my reviews, and that is
Mhm.
very stressful, Sonia. Honestly, reading through the reviews, you're like, oh, I've got a new review. Is it going to be good? Is it going to be bad? Um,
Would you say
they've all
most,
been
well, you can
Most of
tell
them
me.
have been pretty
Are
good.
they are they
Most of them,
mostly good?
they're mostly very good. And then there's an occasional really bad one. And it keeps me awake at night because I
Oh
can't. There was one that said that I mispronounced words, but it didn't say which words. And now I'm like, there are words I'm
no.
mispronouncing and I don't know what they are.
Right. Okay, so that is something that you're going to work through I'm sure, because
Yes,
then you don't
yes.
want that to be an additional stress. You said I'm trying to figure out how you get the work. Is it that now that you've kind of established yourself, you're being sought after, or you still have to be seeking out? Are you being referred to? Oh, I have this great gal who is so good, and is that what's happening for you?
Honestly, most of the work I'm doing now it's follow-up books from people that I auditioned for last year. I've done one book for them and they're like, I've got another 5 books. Will you do the whole series? So I'm kind of doing the rest in the series. I've had a few people reach out on social media. That's been amazing, a few authors. And I've just been really lucky that I've got books lined up until the new year.
Oh,
So I'm
wow.
I'm good. So I don't have to do any auditions now until December.
Wonderful.
Which is
That's
great.
great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm so lucky. It's just I cannot tell you how amazed I am that I've
Yeah.
somehow fallen into this job. I am just delighted.
And how long well, I'm sure it depends on the chapter or something, or you have to do retakes. Do you have to do retakes? Do you
Not
record and then go back and like that doesn't sound good and go back and do it?
So I use this dog clicker while I'm recording. So I record a chapter at a time, and every time I make a mistake, I click, and then that will mark the sound file. And then I
Oh,
just repeat that section. And then I go back and listen to the whole thing, and I just delete the section before the dog clicker. This has been Lifesaver.
Did you get training on this in the course or?
Actually, I think I just saw it on YouTube. It wasn't a particularly, yeah.
Wow.
So there's like two methods, and there's this, and then there's another method that's slightly more technical that I haven't mastered yet, where you can sort of edit as you go. But I'm not particularly technical, so I'm happy just using my little clicker and looking for the two lines on my recording.
Alice, this is such an amazing. I'm so grateful that share this story with me. This is your story. Now think of it. We're gonna put this story in a book. What would you call this story? Your journey,
Oh,
and it's such an amazing journey. It's resurrection, it's resiliency, it's transformation, it's growth, it's redemption, it's so many things. What is it? What would you call it, and what genre would it be? Where would you shelve it? If it's an actual physical book, where would you shelve it in a library? Your story.
oh my goodness, I don't know. That's such a difficult question.
Nothing is
Um,
difficult for you.
I did. Oh God, I'll need to think about that one. Um, yeah, I guess probably like self-development because it
Okay.
has taken me just a long time to get to know myself. I'll tell you what I would call it actually. And this is so a friend of mine and I have been talking about doing a podcast one day for and we're nowhere near yet, but
Yeah.
she's in her 50s, I'm in my 40s, and we both had very sort of normal jobs. And then we're pushing against like we're like actually we've got to an age where we don't want to kind of be in this sort of corporate machine anymore. So we were going to call our podcast Age Against the Machine,
Wow.
like the band. So maybe that's what the book could be called. Maybe I'll just steal that and call it Age Against the Machine. I don't know. But yeah, I think something about hitting 40 and just accepting myself just the way I am. And
Mhm.
actually going on social media and just being me with no makeup on, with my hair scraped back in here, just being honest. I
Yeah.
think I spent so long not being honest with myself or with anybody else about how I was feeling. And I've
Mhm.
just started being honest this year. And there's something very honest about doing the books. And I'm being myself again. And people like it.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
it's God, it's so amazing. It's
Mhm.
just so
Mhm.
like, yeah, sort of, yeah, it's yeah, I'm I keep saying I'm very lucky, but I do feel just incredibly fortunate. And
Okay.
people like you are reaching out to me wanting to have a chat. It's brilliant.
Or it could be lucky. The book could be
It
lucky.
could be lucky. It could be lucky. Exactly, exactly. It could be lucky. It could be anything.
Yeah.
Um, yeah.
What, one more. What is,
Okay.
there's a spirit, there's an energy around you. And despite all the experiences that you've had, and you own it because you're sharing these different dips and spikes and things in your life, and you're owning it. What is the moral compass behind this that is pointing you and guiding you and kind of making things click? Because you said, look, your counselor said, go on a walk, taking some, and you did it, and
Yeah,
then
yeah.
and you were able to connect to something. But there's a larger thing behind all of this. What is the moral compass behind this?
Do you know, I think part of it is I think when I was listening to the audiobooks on the beach, when I was sort of coming out of my depression, I guess it was, and I was starting to reconnect with myself and think about who I had become and the fact that I didn't want to be this person who was, potentially sacking people and, it was awful. And yeah, and I think I've started because I mentioned before about there's something about going back to childhood when you listen to an audiobook.
Right?
So I was like almost like regressing as I was walking on the beach with my little dog, going back to childhood and almost thinking like, like, would the child I used to be proud of the woman that I've become?
What a
is
gift.
this who she would have wanted me to be? And she would not have valued me earning, the extortionate amount of money that I was earning in my last job. She
Mhm.
wouldn't have cared how many suits I had, or, she would have she would have been like, "Oh my gosh, you live by the sea and you can go on the beach every day and you get to read books and hang out with authors." And, like, that's what, she was creative and
Mhm.
vibrant and honest. And
Mhm.
that's who I wanted to be again. So I think maybe it's that. Maybe it's like now I'm trying to do what would make the little girl I used to be proud.
Wow. And I think it seems as if you've done that.
Oh, thanks. I'm getting there. I'm getting there. I'm getting there.
And then passing it on, just giving back in a way, as you said, using your channel to kind of guide other potential what would you call it? Audioist? What is the title?
Yeah, audiobook narrator.
Audiobook narrator. That's
Yeah.
what it is. All
Yeah,
right,
yeah.
Alice. It has been such a pleasure listening to you.
Oh.
I can imagine what it feels like then listening to a book that you you narrate. And you know what? For some reason, in the beginning, you said your parents bought some type of a mansion. Do they still have it? Because I'm thinking about
No.
it for some reason.
Oh, no, 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 no. They ended up getting divorced. It was like it actually ended their marriage because
They sold it?
they were trying to renovate. Yeah, so they had this little, very beautiful house in
Oh.
London. They sold that and they bought this massive pile in rural Herefordshire. And then it never got renovated. It all got really
Oh.
stressful. So they sold it and they went their separate ways, basically, which is a bit sad. But I mean, it was an amazing place to grow up
I can imagine
because,
that.
yeah, it
Is it
was,
still there? Is it still there today?
yeah, it's been renovated into about 10 houses now. It's like,
Wow. Oh,
but
wow.
it was completely wild when I lived there.
Yeah. Well, that also probably is an inspiration for you uh,
Yeah, yeah.
there. All right, Alice, we're finally at the end here. Thank you so much.
Well,
And
thank
I look
you.
forward to, maybe reading one of your book, listening to one of your books on my way to England one of these days. You
Oh,
know,
please.
13
Yeah, and when you're
hours.
here, yeah, when you're here, we'll meet for a coffee or
Definitely.
something. That'd be lovely.
Definitely. Thanks again, and do enjoy the blessed life that it seems that you're enjoying. Take care.
Oh, thank you so much. Bye bye.
Bye bye.